All right. Is that set right? Am I in focus? Good, good. I've been out for a long time today. I started early this morning when my wife, who left the house early to go to church, called me and said, "Oh, you got to get out of the house. There's lots of fog." So I went out early, shot a lot of fog. Not a lot of people, because there's not a lot of people out these days, especially on a winter day. It's foggy. Lake's kind of frozen over, not a lot of boaters, if any at all. Very few people are fishing. The only thing I had was this nice artsy-fartsy thing with cracked ice on the lake and orange buoys, and it's going to be linked below, even though I haven't made my final choice on my final photo, but I'm 99% sure that the picture I shot this morning is going to be linked below, my final photo. I shot it early this morning, icy lake, orange buoys, fog, art, no people. That's it. That's been pretty much my day. I did shoot a couple of other things. I shot herons flying through the fog. I shot fog over the dam. Didn't see any people, none whatsoever. The only people I saw were in cars, and I don't count that as seeing people because they're in cars. I mean, they're there and I can see them, but they're not very photogenic because they go the opposite direction at 45 miles an hour. So I didn't have anything like that. This not being able to get close to people within 6 feet is really kind of hampering some of the things I like to do because I love people photography. That's what I prefer to do. I prefer to shoot people that are doing something, people that are expressing themselves, have an activity that's making them happy or joyful. It's difficult with not being able to get close to people. And the fact that people aren't going out, that very few people are going out to do anything. They're going grocery shopping, maybe. They're going running or jogging, maybe. They may be fishing, maybe, but with the lake starting to freeze over, you're not even going to have that. I have a problem with these days because there's no people. I have a project called 101 Portraits. I'll link to it down below. I'm not trying to make 101 portraits. I'm sure I've made more than 101 portraits in my life. It's a really complex idea, but I think I'd like to make 101 portraits of a particular type or look or person. That is, I'd like to have 101 portraits of politicians, official portrait type portraits of politicians. I'd like to have 101 portraits of politicians on the job, in their domain. I'd like to have 101 portraits of politicians in their homes. I'd like to have 101 portraits of politicians who want to be more than what they appear to be and are willing to allow me to set them in a situation that puts them in a place they'd like to be, not where they are. Years ago, they were installing the statue of James Rhodes, former Governor James Rhodes, on the lawn at the State House. They'd already prepared the pad, the concrete pad with the foundation was there, and the statue was there, and they lifted James Rhodes up by his neck, which some people think is a good idea. Look up James Rhodes. And they were going to put him down on this pedestal. And me and a couple of other photographers had the idea that if this was going to be the final resting place for James Rhodes' statue, that we should create a little time capsule, that we should start a time capsule of our business cards and maybe some of the items we carried with us on a regular basis, but they had to fit in a very small space, and realistically they probably weren't going to survive, but we had a small container. It was all sealed in plastic. So we took our business cards and we asked other people who were there if they wanted to put their business cards in the time capsule. They said, yeah. One of them was an assistant to Jim Rhodes. I don't remember exactly what his title was, but he was an executive assistant to Jim Rhodes. And the conversation we had with him was fascinating. I'm talking to him about making this little time capsule and being a news photographer. He wanted to know what I did and where I traveled and the kind of pictures I shot, all the things I did. I wanted to know from him what it was like being executive assistant to Governor Jim Rhodes, who served more terms as governor than anybody else. And we just had a lot of questions. We asked a lot of questions of each other to learn more about each other. In the course of that conversation, he said to me, you know, if I had to do it all over again, I'd like to be a news photographer like you. I'd like to be able to do the things that you do, go the places you've been and seen the things you've seen. And I'm thinking, what kind of world is this when an executive assistant to the governor of Ohio, one of the most well-known people in the country, says he'd rather be me? I thought that was really odd, because there's a part of me that's saying I'd rather be him. Probably not exactly true, but there's a little part of me that had to be saying that. So I've always been fascinated on how we assign ourselves who we are, what we're really doing, and then what we want to be. And in retrospect, I realized that I would never really want to be the executive assistant to a governor. I would always want to be the photographer who's photographing the executive assistant to the governor building a time capsule beneath the Jim Rhodes statue being placed at the State House. That was a lot more fun. I later went back and had pictures of them removing it because they moved it. And the time capsule, when I looked, was completely rotten and falling apart. But it made a great story of what our plans were. It was a great idea. It just didn't work very well because we didn't think it through. You know, if we'd done it properly, we'd have had a really good way of sealing it, keeping it tight, and, you know, all those things. But it was just a spur of the moment idea. Tried to create a time capsule. It didn't last time enough to make it work. All right. Do all those YouTube things. I want you to subscribe, thumbs up and like, comment, share, do all that stuff. I'm going to go off and figure out some other things. I might shoot another picture or two today. Probably going to go with the nice artsy picture I shot this morning. It's really nice. You need to make an effort to go look at this, and you really need to comment on Facebook and look at my Instagram feed and look at Twitter. I'm Gary Gardner, Gardner with an I, in all of those places. I'm Gary Gardner everywhere, except a couple of places that are weird. Matter of fact, I just signed up for a new service, and I have to admit I don't remember the name of it. I had to reserve my name because they aren't allowing people to come in. Oh, I know what it is. It's Clubhouse. I signed up for Clubhouse, and they're not admitting any more people into the Clubhouse right now, but I have Gary Gardner as my Clubhouse name reserved. We'll see if they keep it. If they do, great. If they don't, well, I won't be in the Clubhouse. All right? I'll be back in a minute tomorrow.